Hey y'all, welcome back to the cookie jar. Today we're doing the second pie recipe from the Sugar Cookie Murder. It is the pecan pie for a holiday crowd. It is this page and this page. So you're going to want your oven at 350, and then you're going to want 2 cups of flour, no need to sift, 1 cup softened butter, 2 sticks, half a pound, 3/4 cup loosely packed brown sugar. The second step, you're going to want 5 beaten eggs, just whip them up with a fork, 1 cup brown sugar, half a cup melted butter, 1½ cups white corn syrup, I use Caro, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, 1½ cups roughly chopped pecans, and 1/8 cup of flour, that's 2 tablespoons. And then you're gonna, basically with the first set, you're making the crust, which you're gonna put in a 9 by 13 pan, and you're gonna bake that off. And then it says, you can use cold butter if you divide each stick into 8 pieces and zoop everything up with the steel blade of your food processor. And then it says, let's see, then you bake the crust. It has a really big note, don't turn off your oven. And then the second step is mixing everything together, pouring it on top, and then baking that off. It says before you bake it, at this point you can carefully decorate the top with a few half pecans. If you want to make it fancier, I don't bother with something this good. You don't need decoration. And then it bakes for 30 to 35 minutes. It comes out, you cut it into 16 pieces. You can top these with whipped cream if you like. They don't really need it. I will be the judge of that. I love whipped cream on my pies. And then the last little note, Bill likes to eat this cold right out of the refrigerator. Andrea likes it best at room temperature. Carrie loves it when it's still warm, served with a scoop of vanilla ice cream on top. Mother also likes it warm, but with chocolate ice cream. I like it anyway, at all, anytime. So, everything is laid out in the kitchen, so let's get in there and get started. Here is everything we are going to use today. Okay, so the first thing that we are doing is we're creaming the cup of butter with the 3/4 cup of brown sugar. So. And then it says to add flour. So that's the 2 cups of flour. I think most of it just stuck to the side of the bowl and hasn't moved since. It is definitely crummy though, which is better than most of what we've tried to do before. All right, we're gonna call this mixed well. All right, knock off what we can. We're not done with this yet, I don't think, so try to just move this out of the way enough that we can take our 9 by 13 greased pan. And we put 3 cups of this into the bottom and then pat it down. So by theoretics, because you're adding 2, 3, you're adding in almost 4 cups. So you should have a half a cup left. So as long as you have a half a cup that you can put on top, you should be around about the right amount. Pat it down, and then reserve the rest for a crumb topping. Which, this is very crumbly. The first time that wanted us to make something crumbly, and we made something crumbly. But it might be too crumbly, if that's possible. I will be the first person to be very, very honest. I am probably the worst pie crust maker ever. I have tried and tried and tried, and it seems like the simplest thing in the world to do is to make a pie crust, and I just can't. the bottoms are either soggy or it didn't chill right and it breaks apart, or it's just something always goes wrong. I almost think it would have been easier to dump this out, roll it out on a mat, cut it to 9 by 13 and put it in the bottom. Because this is... oy vey. I tried very, very hard. I feel like somewhat succeeded, if only vaguely, in the simplest way possible. This is what we have. So this goes in the oven for 350 for 15 minutes. So it actually took 20 minutes, not the 15, but that's what it looks like when it came out. The next step is we take our 5 eggs and we mix them with the one... I accidentally turned the oven off instead of the timer, so I had to turn it back on. So that is our 1 cup of brown sugar, and it just says to mix these together. I'm going to drizzle in our half a cup of melted butter. And then once that's mixed in, we're adding the 1.5 cups of corn syrup. Next is the 3/4 teaspoon of salt. And the 1.5 cups of pecans. Now it says to add the flour, the 2 tablespoons of flour, the 1/8 of a cup. Now we just pour the mix on top of the crust. This is the part where it says if you have extra whole pecans to decorate the top. I don't, and I like the look of it all jumbled up anyway, and I add a whole bunch of whipped cream on top, so for me it doesn't matter. So we're gonna pop it in the oven at 350 for 30 to 35 minutes, and then we're gonna cool it on a wire rack. It says once the pan is cool to the touch, refrigerate it until ready to serve. This is what it looks like before we toss it in the oven. So they're more like pecan pie bars than actual pecan pie. So I messed up. I made a boo-boo. But luckily, before I got it into the oven, because I saw the bowl sitting here with this, the extra pie crust stuff, we are to crumble it on top and then decorate it with the extra pecans. So, crumble, crumbly. Try not to have too many giant pieces. Now, I find this part odd. And one of the main reasons I almost forgot to do it until I saw it sitting on top of the stove was that most of the pecan pies I've ever seen don't have any crust on top. Normally it's just like the fruit pies that have the crust on top. So it threw me off for a second. But I saw it and I remembered, and we're adding it now. So yay. So this is what it looks like before it goes into the oven. So here it is out of the oven, completely chilled. It did say to cut it into 16 pieces. I couldn't figure out how to do that, so I cut mine into 12. Alright, here is the bar, the pecan pie. So, I'm gonna try it like this first. That's good. It reminds me of a gooey butter cake. It's surprisingly has a lot of flavor to it, considering I don't feel like we put any spices or anything into it, but it definitely has like a spiced vibe. Okay, let's finish this video before I devour that. Yeah, there's not even vanilla in this recipe, let alone there's no cinnamon, there's no nutmeg, there's no spices. It's just the brown sugar and the butter and the syrup and the pecans. And yet it is so tasty that you think they're there. And it is, I'm not the biggest fan of pecan pie, but I love this. I'm not really that big of a pie crust person. Like, I'll eat it, like if it's on top and on the bottom, but I won't usually eat the back piece because it's just no point to it. Which is great about this because you just have the layer on the bottom to hold it together. So I like that too. This is actually so good and so tasty, and I can't wait to devour the rest of it. I am so thrilled with this. It's so good. So next week we are doing the pumpkin pie for a crowd, and if it comes out even a 10th as good as the pecan pie, I will be so happy because pumpkin is my favorite. So with that being said, I will see you guys next week. I hope you have a good one, my lovelies. Bye.